All right, so here are 3 simple lessons that I've been thinking about a lot this week. I want to share them with you. These are not necessarily unique ideas that I have spontaneously generated myself. I've read these from other people, I've heard these from other people, and they have played into my meditations this week. And I want to share them with you so that you have an opportunity to reflect on them as well. Number 1 is how you prepare shows how much you care. How you prepare shows how much you care. That is a fascinating idea. If you go into a meeting and you haven't done any preparation, can you make the argument that you really care about that meeting, that you really care about maximizing the time that you put in with the people that you're there with? I would contend no. And I say that as a person who generally, historically, has gone into meetings with very little preparation. Now, if it is a very important meeting, if I'm meeting somebody for the very first time, a business relationship that I want to go in a particular way, and I want to make a good impression, then yeah, I'm going to do a whole lot of preparation to show that I took this thing seriously, that I really cared. So the more preparation you put into something, the more that it will reflect on the final product, and it will reflect to the people on the other side of that project as well. So I think that was something I took for granted when I was young, and I did not put enough time into preparing for things because I didn't want it to seem like I cared. And sure enough, that's how it came off, right? Like when you're young, you try to play it like you're cool and aloof, and you're like, oh, I'm here. What do you guys got for me? But like that won't get you very far. I think actually a good corollary to how successful you will be in life is how much you prepare for the activities you do. The more you prepare, the more intensity that you put in before the activity itself, the more likely you are to succeed. And you see this in like sports, right? The corollary here is like the more you practice, the more you prepare in practice, the more intensity you bring in your preparations, the more likely you are to do well in the game. Michael Jordan talked about this all the time, right? He had this insane standard he would hold his team to in practice. And they're like, how do you do this? Like, why do you practice so hard? And he's like, because if we practice hard like this, then the game is easy. The game is easy because we've already crushed ourselves in practice. We've prepared for the battle. And that's how this guy who is, what was it? NBA Finals. He had the flu game where he's barely able to stand. He's like, looks like this man's running on fumes. And yet for whatever reason, he's able to, self-motivate himself. He's able to go into that deep, dark cave, get up there and have an incredible game. And it's because he put in the work beforehand and prepared, and therefore, even in his weakened state in the game, he was still able to show up and crush. So how much you prepare shows how much you care. Number 2, instead of optimizing your calendar for productivity or anything else, or for meetings or anything, I want you to take the time to look at your calendar this week, your schedule, and I want you to optimize it for impact. Optimize for impact. What would it look like for your calendar to reflect the fact that it is optimized for only the activities that are the most important in your life or important for moving your goals forward, and then to eliminate everything else? Your calendar, I'm guessing, would look very, very different, right? Like a lot of times we put our most important, impactful activities in the middle of the day or towards the end of the day. We start by kind of easing in with emails or easing in with meetings, and then we'll get around to the highly impactful thing. But what would it look like if you just eliminated all of that easing in time on all of those unnecessary meetings, or any of the meetings that might be important, but they aren't the most important. They aren't the most impactful. What if you were to organize your calendar and said, this is the most impactful thing that I could possibly do with my life right now in this moment? And you did that first. And then you said, what is the second most impactful thing? Not the most urgent thing, not the thing that has the deadline, not the thing that everybody else wants you to do, but what is the second most impactful thing that if you were to do this, it would move your life forward the fastest? Put that second. What if the third thing was the third most impactful activity? I bet if I looked at your calendar right now, we would see that it is not laid out in that manner, is it? Is it? Look at your calendar right now and tell me, where's the most impactful thing? Where is that on your calendar? Where's the second most impactful? If it's not in this chronological order of I tackle the most impactful thing first, then the second most impactful, third most impactful, then you have room for improvement. That is the lens I want you to look at your life through. How do I optimize it for impact? Forget everything else. Number 3, third lesson is that, this one's funny actually, lessons will be repeated until they are learned. Just tweeted about this today. Lessons will be repeated until they are learned. You cannot progress to the next level in the game until you beat the boss. And so you have to keep bashing your head against that boss over and over and over until you've proven that you know how to beat it. And only after you've proven that you can beat it can you move on to the next lesson and beat the next boss. And this is important to think about in the context of life or business, is that where you are right now, the reason you aren't past this point is because there's a lesson you have not learned. And it's probably a lesson that has continually repeated itself. Like, I don't know how to hire people. I don't know how to train them. I don't know how to hold them accountable. I don't know how to create a good product that can sell itself. I don't know how to bust through $1 million a year in marketing, right? Like, whatever the boss is, whatever the lesson is that you are continually bashing your head against, you cannot move forward until that lesson is learned. Now, once you do learn that lesson, you get to grow and you get to go on to the next boss. But a good litmus test for whether or not you actually have learned a lesson is, can you repeat that lesson? Can you teach that lesson to somebody else and have them replicate the results? Right? You haven't actually learned the lesson unless you can give it to somebody else and teach it to them in your own way that helps them get the same result. If I can coach somebody else on how to build $1 million a year business, cool. Then I have learned that lesson. Not just enough for me to have done it once or twice or a couple of times, right? Because if I can do it in a few different contexts, maybe I got lucky. But if I can teach other people how to do it, then I definitely know how to do it. Now, if you can't teach them how to make a $5 million, or $10 million, or $50 million business, then you haven't learned the lesson that needs to be learned. So those are 3 things that I've been thinking about a lot this week. And on that last one in particular, the question that I want you to reflect on in your journaling is, what are the lessons that I'm continually having to fight? Like, which ones keep coming up? Oh, I don't know how to trust people. I keep getting into bad deals. I keep, getting taken advantage of. What are the lessons that keep coming up and keep cropping up in your life every 3 to 5 years, right? Ask yourself, I feel like I keep hitting this roadblock. That is the lesson you have to learn. You have not learned how to pass that level, and that's what's holding you back. So spend some time journaling on that. Journal on the other ideas. How you prepare shows how much you care, and to optimize your calendar for impact. You do those 3 things, and I will be very proud of you. And I know that's all you need, right? This is my approval. Well, okay, maybe not. But if it is, you get it. If not, then you don't. And I got nothing else. Now I'm just rambling. I'll see you guys in the next episode.